I think it was Churchill once said that you should never see how legislation or sausages are made, that it would maybe turn you off them for life. If I can maybe just refer to the Parliament thing in the context of RPL, one of the interesting things about being in politics is that your party leader comes into you one day and says, what are you kind of interested in? You might say housing, the environment, health, and he says, that's grand, you're the spokesperson from now on, off you go to RTE and you become an expert in it. And ETBs are a bit like that, in that you get called into an office and you're now the RPL go-to person in the ETB, and off you go. And in some ways I ended up in that role with the ETB. But I'd like to thank the organisers today for the opportunity to speak about the Tubber programme in particular, and to give a snapshot as to what Tubber is about, and also to provide a snapshot as to what's been actually happening in the Cork Education Training Board since we actually engaged with the Tubber programme. So, to begin, it's maybe a 4-year journey for us at this stage. That's something that began back in 2017 when we heard about a project happening up in Donegal that was being operated by Martina Needham. That was our starting point. In Donegal ETB, they were carrying out an RPL pilot project with the Defence Forces, and as a result of that, QQI then facilitated and supported the coming together of 10 ETBs in total to roll out RPL as a Tubber programme with the Defence Forces nationwide. So what is the Tubber programme? The Tubber programme, as operated by the Cork Education Training Board and operated by the other 9 ETBs across the country, is similar in terms of purpose and design, and maybe somewhat bespokely then differently operated in terms of the needs of the different arrangements that operate across the 10 ETBs. So in Cork, as with other ETBs, the Cork Education Training Board Tubber programme is run in conjunction with the Defence Forces in Constance Barracks, and in the other ETBs is run with the other barracks in the ETB jurisdictions. It accredits and validates knowledge, skills and competences acquired by selected Defence Force personnel outside of the formal learning environment. And those selected Defence Force personnel would be to the rank of NCO, so that would be Sergeant, Sergeant Major, right down to privates, who would have been in the military, who would have actually acquired a whole load of learning in their military career, and also acquired learning outside of their military career, as we've actually discovered as part of the Tubber programme. The programme gives QQI certified recognition to the skills and competencies that participants have acquired in previous formal, informal and non-formal learning environments. The programme in Cork is run over 12 weeks, with participants attending one day a week. The start of the process is about enabling them to understand the type of coding toolkits that are required to develop an RPL portfolio, and from there on out then they put their portfolios together. These go for assessment, and the assessments that have actually taken place have been across a range of subjects, with their evidence contained in their folders from level 4 to level 6 in the Cork instance. It doesn't happen in isolation. There's actually a team that actually run the structure in which the RPL process takes place, and that team consists of mentors, facilitators, education guidance counsellors, and of course subject matter experts. 2 impacts that I would like to maybe just focus upon in terms of the outcomes of the programme. One is that it offers the participants the option of progressing to further education and training, along with providing an important role in enhancing employability and work mobility should they decide to leave the Defence Forces. But one of the things that we have discovered as well is that in previous learning environments, the Defence Force members may have not completed the secondary school cycle. They may have reached junior cert or intermediate certificate, but when they go through the RPL process with us, it's not that we're picking them up at junior cert or inter-cert level. We're picking them up at level 5, level 6, and in some cases beyond level 6, the skill sets that they have actually acquired. And the time frame in which they can actually have their prior learning recognised is dramatically reduced in terms of if they were to go off and actually study those learnings. So we have found an average over the 12-week period, with the induction maybe lasting for two days, which would be the first 2 weeks, on average participants are completing 4 single component subjects, which in full-time education would probably be a half a year, if not more, or a full academic year. So in 2008, having engaged with the Tubber programme and with the assistance of QQI, and with particularly the experience of Martina and Deirdre Gordon from CIT in terms of developing toolkits, we successfully completed 2 Tubber cycles, evaluating them as pilots in 2018, and we intend to complete 3 Tubber cycles this year. The second one has just commenced, and the third one will be in September. We're looking to do 1 hospitality skills RPL cycle at QQI level 5, and in partnership with Solus, we intend to deliver an RPL in electronic security systems, which is a level 6 apprenticeship, and we're engineering the toolkit and working of that actually at the moment. I'll be very quick. So where to next? Our next stage of this is to skills. We're looking at skills to advance, to further develop RPL pathways, and to continue to work towards a service-wide integrated RPL program in line with what was being said this morning, in where the validation is equal to the other validation processes inside ETB, are not separate to, and something that's actually embedded in it, and that has the same quality assurances and other procedure policies, but they need to be worked upon. Very quickly, this is generally reflective of what ETBs were doing back in 2016 and 1917, probably doing the same in 1916 as well, in that you go in the door, you do your program, you go out the door with your certification, you may progress onto other education, you may progress onto other employment. So when we moved to RPL, we had to create a structure that actually give recognition to the prior learning. So what you will see there is the 4 stages, as in terms of the stages of RPL, 1, 2, 3 and 4. And what we have also done is ensured that the progression pathways, and I'll come back to this in a moment because I think this is a key point, that the progression pathway may be a re-entry back into or further continuation with the Education Training Board, or it may be a progression pathway into employment or other education providers. But I think the key thing that has to be got across here today is ETBs historically have been brilliant at innovation and adaptability. We haven't been so good at project management and taking something and turning it into mainstream. So what you will see here is that we invested quite significantly in putting structure together. There's a project management team, two of which are actually here today. Carol Quinlan from the Quality Assurance Office in the Education Training Board, and also Deirdre Goggin, who's the higher education partner on it, and the expertise and learning that we actually had from that give incredible direction and structure and clarity as to what we wanted to do, and of course a team. And I'll be closing up with some points about this. To date, and in different ETBs across the country, the subject areas may differ to some extent. In blue, you will see what the areas we've been working on so far. And going back to earlier to this morning's contribution, you'll see that that's very much in the transversal skills, sort of key skills area. The ones in red are other subject areas which we're now going into, because we're now into the 4th cycle and we have participants from previous cycles coming back to us, and we're looking at what they're learning as well. And both the mentors and the guidance service have been crucial in being able to identify these other skill sets which actually existed. Each participant that comes through the programme is provided with a personal progression plan. And this has been something that we've been very, very conscious of, that the TUBR is not a major award programme. What it is a capturing of the learning capabilities and skill sets that you actually have to know. If we were to focus upon major awards, what we would end up doing is aggregating the participants to a lower level. So we have information technology skills at level 4, and then we'd have to move them down to communications level 4, leadership level 4. And RPL isn't about that. RPL is about recognising your learning at this moment in time. However, some participants on the cycle may, and probably on this current cycle, may achieve major awards, but that's not the purpose of it. The purpose of it is, as part of lifelong learning, is to ensure that what they're learning today is best captured, which enables them to maybe jump straight on to further education instead of actually completing a major award, or go straight into employment. And what we're actually, I've just found one of our previous participants this week has been taken on board as a team leader with one of the customer services company in Cork, because he actually had evidence of the type of leadership skills, management, teamwork skills, and so forth, and also the communication skills. So that's it. Then there is, if you see at the very RPL induction stage and guidance stage where we have the guidance, when we moved to the apprenticeship program, you'll see that some changes actually happened. It wasn't, because we're moving from a QQI program with learning outcomes and moving to a SOLIS apprenticeship program where you're talking about competencies, the nature of how the process actually operates, adapts, and it's moved from a 4-stage process to a 7-stage process. It kicks off with applicants completing a self-assessment of competencies that we've identified for them. They complete this, whether they have that competence or not, and where in the future they can identify evidence for it. If they can do that, they progress then to the identification stage, the documentation stage, and the assessment stage. Each stage, those 2 critical stages then are judged by a subject matter expert. A mentor facilitator is at the identification documentation stage, and then, as is the nature of apprenticeship programs and competencies, the 5th and 6th stage then require a practical assessment taking place and particular training that has to be provided. And obviously the training is provided at phase 6 because we need to ensure that once they get to that stage, they're actually at the certification stage, and that training costs quite a bit of money, so that's why it's actually placed inside there. Finally, this is the last slide you'll be happy to hear. The key, I'll maybe just ask you to focus up on about 2 or 3 of the items here. I think the first one, in terms of operational matters, that RPL practice be a sustainable career opportunity. I think that's a very, very big issue for the ETB sector, particularly in terms of how our enrolments are going in colleges of further education, and more importantly, where the learning place is now moving from the classroom to the workplace, which probably Ronan will be talking about earlier. Our future environment for work as educators in the ETB sector is going to be increasingly more and more in the learning workplace, where workplace learning and RPL, they may not be the same thing, but they're certainly siblings and they're related to one another. The other ones I would ask you to focus upon is that ETBs, which is the first bullet point on the organisational matters, that ETBs, and in our case Cork Education Training Board, need to set out a clear strategy that we're actually committed to RPL, and that needs to be in our documentation, it needs to be highlighted. One of the great things about this network and RPL practice in Ireland is that it has developed outside of a national sort of framework, our policy procedures at the moment, and that's quite a good thing. But we do need a more strategic view or vision of the area into the future, and particularly in terms of, which is the last bullet, definitive strategic structures. We need to be looking at this as a structured service within the ETBs, as something that's bespoke or something that maybe happens on an occasional basis. I'll finish up with this, and I think it goes back to Dr. Brand's comment earlier there this morning, and in terms of the availability of RPL. My recently late mother had a great saying when you were in an adversarial situation or up against it. She said, "Sure, look, if it was easy, they'd all be doing it." And in some ways, she's right. RPL should be easy, and a lot more people should be doing it. And how we get them to do it is by simplifying our processes, whilst at the same time ensuring the quality assurance of them as well, so that they actually have credibility, validation, and the certification is real in the wider environment and workplace. Thank you.